Jasmina Kovacev, personal performance and wellness coach, EFT expert, international trainer, and many other things, too many to mention here, author of the book, Turn Your Weaknesses into Strengths.
Jasmina, you work in the area of emotions and beliefs. What have they got to do with cancer?
We live today in the fast-paced world, full of different pressures of all kinds. And unfortunately, majority of people are not aware of the real impact of emotional stresses and particularly emotional conflict shocks. At the same time, conservative American Medical Association is saying that 85% of all health conditions actually start initially at the emotional level, and many others are saying that that number is much higher than that. Our own sensitivity level is quite increased because of piling up of all different stresses at emotional level, environmental level, social level. And when the last drop in the form of sudden unexpected emotional conflict shock actually makes the glass that is already full overflow, excuse my French, but the S hits the fan and the cancer can occur. And when people are diagnosed with cancer, that's a new conflict shock that can create a new cancer, and when they hear that diagnosis or that is spreading in the form of metastasis, it's a new shock, and that's actually how the whole downward spiral starts.
But isn't a good diet and nutritional support all we need to do in order to prevent cancer?
Nutrition has its important role in prevention, but emotional stresses use up a lot of nutrition and actually deplete our body nutritionally. And that is why a good nutritional support is very important, not just for prevention, but also when someone has a cancer.
What really is the cause of cancer?
Conventional medicine doesn't have unified or clear understanding of what is causing the cancer. The same is with alternative approaches. They are both working on the symptom, and consequently emotional underlying causes are never addressed. And I'm not saying that that is the only area that needs to be addressed, but is one area that is very important to be addressed. On the other hand, there is a very scientific approach in existence that observes every health condition as a meaningful bodily process that has its own biological logic. We say biologic. And in that biologic, every emotional conflict relates to certain emotional conflicts, including cancer. Of course, if we exclude possibility of the cancer due to radiation or chemical poisoning, the rest are under emotional conflict shocks. And this scientific approach is actually much broader than conventional or alternative approach. The main thing is really to support the body and mind to go through this process safely.
So what is the process?
There are a few things that we need to understand about this process. Whenever something sudden, unexpected, as a sudden unexpected conflict shock happens, there are three things that happen almost simultaneously in a split of a second. The first thing that happens is that we attach a meaning to the conflict shock that we experienced. For example, if someone's partner walks away, one can understand that as a separation conflict or abandonment conflict or territory loss conflict or sexual rejection conflict or some other way. And one might experience more than one conflict at the same time in the same situation. So there will be few different processes running at the same time. Or one might not experience any conflict shock in that situation. Not every situation is interpreted the same way with every person. We all have our own uniqueness and interpret things differently, and there are reasons for that. In a split second of that meaning that is attached, the next thing that happens is hit, an energetical hit in certain part of the brain where is the relay for that particular conflict shock. the whole brain is mapped with certain conflict relays. And depending what part of the body is attached to that relay will determine what organ or what body part will be affected, because every a body organ or body part has its own relay on the brain. Very simple, interesting, and very scientific explanation and approach, isn't it? Another concept that is important to understand in this process is that every process has two phases: conflict active phase and healing phase. So when the conflict gets resolved, then the healing phase can take place. And if conflict doesn't get resolved, well, there is no healing phase, unfortunately. And healing phase is not always a nice phase, but the body has to go through it. Now you understand why it's so important to resolve underlying emotional cause. And there is a final piece of this puzzle that is quite scientific and relates to embryonic germ layers. So just bear with me for extra half a minute, everything will be clear. We all originate from 3 germ layers: endoderm, mesoderm, and ectoderm. And I know those are big words, but just let me tell you a little bit more about it. All our body parts and our organs are developed from one or more of those germ layers. And the same is with the brain. Now, when emotional hit happens, depending what part of the brain is affected and depending what germ layer is affected, the following things might happen. There are different options. First thing that might happen is that hit affects lower or older brain layers, and what happens then is a cell growth, a cell plus, as we would say. So that's actually like a cancer, like a growth. And when the conflict gets resolved, the body goes into healing phase, where actually destruction of that tissue happens, or if there is no condition for destruction, the encapsulation happens. If newer brains gets affected, what happens at the organ level is that in the conflict active phase there is actually a cell minus, there is actually destruction of the tissue like ulceration or necrosis, and then once when the conflict gets resolved, there is a cell plus happening, there is a tissue growth happening, actually there is a cancer happening in the healing stage. So there are cancers that are happening in the healing stage. It's very important to understand that. And regardless of those cancers are happening in the healing stage, they need to be managed, but in a way that will support the whole healing process.
Can you give us an example of the biologic of the process?
To understand the biologic of this process, I will give an example. Alveoli lung cancer is caused by birthright conflict. What that means? Alveoli are ends of our lungs, and when the birthright conflict happens, there is a cell plus, cell growth at the end of our lung tissue in the alveoli area, and that's that biologic increasing the area at the ends of our alveoli so that the body can get more oxygen and survive the birthright conflict. Very logical or biological. And once the conflict gets resolved, TB bacteria come and destroy that tissue that was previously growing, and that's what we call tuberculosis. And if there are no TB bacteria, then encapsulation happens as a result at the place of the previous growth. So it's quite understandable now why there were so many tuberculosis after the wars, because there are so many death frights, either for ourselves or for our loved ones.
This all sounds quite scientific. What do you think about those that have a more spiritual approach to cancer?
There is a lesson in every cancer, and it is very important to master that lesson. Otherwise, we will carry creating new cancers. And it's very important to understand this process, because once an emotional underlying issue is resolved according to this very scientific approach, then we can move forward to mastering our lesson. Actually, that almost happens at the same time. It all actually works together, science and spirituality, because today science and spirituality are actually closer than ever before.
Considering that you have a scientific background in phytomedicine and you are working in the area of personal performance and emotional and mental support, what is your role when it comes to cancer?
My main role is to educate and consult others about this process, regardless whether they are coming from conventional or alternative approach. My role is also to support or to provide emotional and mental support for those that are going through this cancer process journey. And I also work with anyone else who has stuck emotions and limiting beliefs that are not serving them, in order to reduce their sensitivity level and that way prevent occurrence of illness, including cancer.
Is this scientific process what you will be working with at the cancer retreat that you are organising in New Zealand?
This is only one of many things that we will be covering on the retreat, considering that there are many other areas that are necessary to be addressed at the emotional and at the mental level.
Why are you saying that it is necessary to address them?
I work with the principle that self-healing is a birthright, a birth-given gift for all of us to have. And if that is not happening, there are blockages in the way to self-healing. We all know if we cut ourselves, it gets healed. It doesn't stay like this. And it can get infected, so managing of that process is important, but self-healing is there for us. And from that, what comes out is the basic formula of health. Health equals self-healing ability of our body minus blockages. And blockages might be at a physical level of our being, at emotional level, mental level, or spiritual level. Vast majority of our blockages are actually at the emotional and mental level, sometimes at a physical level, and sometimes, but it's very rare that it is at a spiritual level. My approach is simple but very effective. To identify all emotional and mental blockages step by step, work with the person to resolve those blockages so that the self-healing can take place. And of course, other approaches can be used in conjunction as well to support the body. For example, nutrition is very important because it gives the energy to our physical body and also to other levels of our being.
How do you help others release emotions and blocking beliefs once you identify them?
There are different ways to do it, but for me the most effective and fastest way is EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique, the modality that belongs to energy psychology discipline. I'm an international EFT expert and AMET trainer in 7 different countries, and EFT is the main delivery tool for my broad education, my broad knowledge, and my expertise. And as you might well know, the piano music is as good as the pianist is, regardless how good piano is. And EFT is a great piano, it's a great tool, but it does require other skills in order to produce masterpiece in different areas, particularly when we are talking about cancer, where other expertise and knowledge is crucial.
How can we see the effects of this kind of emotional release?
A tangible example is the result I got after conducting or while conducting a whole day EFT group emotional release workshop in Serbia, where a special camera was used. It's called PIP camera, and photos were taken before and after the whole day of EFT progressive group treatment. Prior to the group work, the first 13 people that arrived were photographed, and after the whole day, the same 13 people were photographed again. The photos were taken by quantum physicist Professor Lyubor Ristovsky, who acquired his technology in order to be able to assess the effectiveness of different energy modalities for the Ministry of Health in Serbia. And comments of the results by Professor Lyubor Ristovsky are, I'm just quoting him, "It is a phenomenon that I cannot explain, and I do not need to explain. The results speak for themselves. You all look like clones. From what I can see, I can conclude that all of these people at the end of the day had psychological balance and inner peace. I do not know what you were doing with them, but even the energy of the whole room is totally different." If that was achieved in only one day, you can only imagine what benefit would people have after a week-long retreat where 50% is this kind of work.
Amazing. Are you going to do the same at the retreat?
Yes, but without the photography, plus much more. You know, the cancer work is very specific, and knowledge in a number of complementing areas is crucial. The order of resolution of issues matters. Knowing when the mind is clear of all blocking beliefs is very important. Otherwise, we are actually blocking the self-healing process. Blocking beliefs can also sabotage all other areas of emotional work that has already been done. And that's all taken care of during this retreat.
If the Serbian Ministry of Health is looking at the effectiveness of energy modalities, it sounds like conventional medicine is becoming more open to other approaches. Is this your experience?
It certainly is, especially finding those gems in the conventional system that are more open-minded, and their support is very, very important. The way I work is actually complementing anything that is supporting the process that people are going through, people affected by cancer. It actually supports any other approach. I used to work with people, or I work with people that opted only for conventional approach, or people that opted for only alternative approach, or they mixed and match, and I work with people that were written off.
Why you? Why are you involved in this field at all?
Everything in my life has perfectly prepared me to do what I'm doing today, starting from a range of life experiences to all different education that I've done in my life. And in total, up to today, I've done 27 different trainings, starting from degree in science, phytomedicine, diploma in herbal medicine, iridology, various trainings in EFT, various forms of coaching. I'm NLP master, I'm a German new medicine consultant, metamedicine practitioner and trainer. A number of other things, including a range of business trainings in the area of business communication and presentation. And all of it is coupled with 20 years of experience, and that gives me a broad and a deep view that is really hard to match. And it is all of it that I'm bringing to my clients when I work with them. I'm a student of life. My role in this life is to study life, transfer integrated knowledge, help others to overcome their emotional pain, help others to overcome their limits and boundaries that they want to overcome in various areas of their life.
How do you feel about cancer-affected people?
There are many different feelings involved. It breaks my heart seeing people's emotional pain, feeling helpless, feeling that there is no way out of their situation or their emotional pain. It breaks my heart to see people getting a new cancer from conflict shock of diagnosis, and actually they've been already in the healing stage that manifested as a cell growth. If they only understood that that was a healing stage or healing cancer, they would never experience that as a conflict shock, they would never get a new cancer, and they would never get a metastasis. And it breaks my heart knowing what needs to be addressed at the emotional and mental level, and seeing that it's not addressed, that people are not doing it, and they have no idea where to go to sort it out. I have had health issues and I know what emotional pain is. By the age of 10, I had 2 tonsillitis surgeries, and one of them was actually regrowth of the 3rd nasal tonsils, because they regrew till age of 14. By the age of 10, I had my appendix out, and I was facing a surgery that would be bone breaking surgery for scraping the pus out of my sinuses that were so infected and painful that nothing was helping. And the pain was such a horrible pain that I was throwing up from that pain. And because I was throwing up, I had to be careful what I ate, because that I can throw up more easily. And I can tell you, rice is not a good option because it gets stuck in the nose. And I even didn't have a fatal condition. So I can only imagine how it feels being diagnosed with potentially fatal, life-threatening condition. And I've seen that all. I've seen shock, fear, sadness, anger, desperation, a lot of disbelief in body's own ability to heal. And you know what that means? What we believe in, that it's possible for us, that's possible for us. What we believe it's not, it's true for us too. So not believing in body's ability to heal, you know what that means. And it makes me sad knowing how much easier and nicer life can be, even with this kind of a condition like cancer, and people not even recognizing that. At the same time, I feel empowered. I feel empowered with the knowledge I have, and I want to share it and help others with that knowledge, because there is always a way out. It's a matter of finding the way and having the right attitude.
Is your health different nowadays from when you were a child?
Today, at the age of 53, I'm healthier than ever. The search for the secret of health is over. And today I know what needs to be addressed at the physical, what needs to be addressed at the emotional and mental level. Today I understand the vertical and horizontal levels of healing. Today I understand the meaningful reason for every health condition as a process.
There must be quite a serious conflict shock in order to get cancer. What might that be?
Strangely enough, conflict shocks are not always big. Sometimes they can be. For example, if we suddenly, unexpectedly lose someone who we dearly love, that can happen. And that happened to the doctor who is originator of this scientific approach when his son was killed. His testicular cancer was the end result. By the way, he is over it. He cured it. Sometimes conflict shocks are very, very small. Sometimes it's even hard to believe what can trigger a very serious, or what can start very serious condition, like being that the last drop that makes the glass overflow. Could you imagine that a woman can get a pancreas cancer over wallpaper? Wallpaper, paper on the wall. Once when she realized that she will never be able to replace those wallpaper due to lack of finances as a result of high mortgage. And once when all her treatments were over, she was sent home to die with life expectancy of few months. But instead of that, after 6 months, she was back to work. Impossible? Can't be done? Wrong. Can you believe that one can get a pancreas cancer after realization that he will never get grandchildren? It's hard to believe, but that's true. And I had a client like this. It was very hard to actually find what the conflict cause was, because it's so bizarre and so small. But for some people that have very high sensitivity level on the certain topic or certain emotional issue, it's just that last drop in the already full glass. And when he was diagnosed, he's been given only 2 months to live. Only because his wife insisted on chemo, he was given chemo just to give him a hope. After second chemo, he started getting numbness and tingling in his extremities, fingertips and toes, and then we started working together, and that all disappeared. We carried on working. He received altogether in the first stage 10 chemos, and after that everything was coming down and the cancer was not growing anymore, and he was taken off chemo, and he was fine and off chemo for another 9 months. And then a metastasis happened. Actually, a new cancer happened. And it was very hard to figure out what really happened. And only through conversation and talking to the family members, we managed to actually figure out what happened. And that trigger, that conflict, sudden shock, was a nasty text message that he received from someone who was refusing to return the money that was lent. And that actually triggered a new cancer, and he was back to chemo. And we carried on working together, but this time he had the conviction that he has to have chemo till the rest of his life. It's what was the pressure, family pressure around him and everyone else, and he carried receiving chemo till he received his 27th. His body could not cope anymore with this level of toxicity. All up to the 20th chemo, he was fine, and he was living his life fully, totally normally, and at a certain point when it was too much, the decline started. He passed away after 27 chemos, after 3 years of his cancer journey instead of 2 months. That's pretty good. 3 years instead of 2 months. It could be much more than that if chemo was stopped earlier, but that's a different story. What is very important to note is that in that particular hospital, for this particular treatment of pancreas cancer, people don't make more than 5 to 7 chemos. They passed away after that. And he made 27. The second thing that is very important to note is that he never had any pain till the last 3 days of his life, and that's quite impressive. With one client with the breast cancer, the doctor suggested that the first diagnosis made from a scan by another doctor must have been wrong, because only 1 month later and after working with me, the scan looked very different. And there are many stories like these.
What about those who do not want to live or who have passed the point of no return?
There are actually a number of people that are told that they passed the point of no return, and they prove it wrong. There are actually much smaller number of people that really pass the point of no return. It would be very important for those that get that prediction to pay attention to their emotional, mental blockages, resolve them, because miracles can and do happen. And there are people that decide to die. They feel that they've done what they were meant to do in this lifetime, and they decide to pass away. But for them it's also very important to resolve their initial conflict shock, because it makes a huge difference in the way they pass away. Partner of one of my clients said once when she passed away, he made a comment that she never saw anyone passing away with a smile and in such peace, and he contributes that to the work we've done.
You are running a week-long retreat called Emotional Support for people affected by cancer. How did this come about?
In August 2011, I presented the same topic at the first EFT conference in New Zealand. I summed up all main areas and insights of my years-long learning and experience in this field. I did not focus much on a causative level because that is very uncommon for EFT practitioners to have much understanding in this area, and it's quite complex to, that's totally different level of work and training. So my whole focus was on all other different areas of support of someone who is affected by cancer using EFT. And presentation was very well received. It just happened that I came across the comment that one of my colleagues made to someone else saying, Jasmina made the most amazing presentation at the first EFT and kinesiology conference in Wellington. So there were many other comments along that line. And at the time when I was preparing this presentation, I was very inspired, and the idea of the retreat was born. And then all those comments really encouraged me to move forward.
What can those that come to the retreat expect to get?
Those that come will experience transformational healing at the emotional and mental level. They will get a lot of education, they will have a lot of fun. And while supporting emotional and mental healing, a lot of EFT will be used in the process, while still appreciating the whole process that they are going through. And when we talk about the process, basically everyone will understand the process and processes that they are going through based on their past and current medical diagnosis, because it's how I interpret it, in the light of conflict emotional shocks and in the light of the process at the biological level that they are going through. Because it's sometimes very hard for our conscious mind to really understand what is going through if we do not understand that biologic behind it. And in order to support the best everyone's emotional and personal needs, you're going to ask everyone to fill in detailed questionnaire, so I can do a personal analysis of every single person for their particular process. Meditation and visualization and other useful programs that are holistic and integrate all levels of our being will be used. Crucial coping skills will be taught in order to prevent possible negative influences of people's environment once when they return home. A lot will be done in a group situation, and there are some individual work that is involved. There are a number of empowering and educational video materials that we prepared, and the whole program is run at the beautiful Mana Retreat Center for full 7 days, where accommodation is provided and all healthy food, healthy vegetarian food choices that are mainly organic. And there are tons more. Too many to be listed here, but we have to keep some secrets once when you arrive. And really, there is no other retreat quite like this one.
How would you sum up the uniqueness of this retreat?
The uniqueness of this retreat is in the combination of transformation, education, and fun in a nurturing environment. Cancer emotional support is a matter of the right combination of extensive knowledge and a lot of experience, resulting in unique package. And I don't believe that any cancer patient can afford a luxury of looking back and saying, I wish I have had. Never look back. Concentrate from this moment forward and do everything that is in your power to attain.
This all sounds great. So how much does it cost?
For all of it, accommodation, nutritional organic food, transformation, education, an expert leading the program, individual sessions, group sessions, your personalized process analysis, and everything else we talk about and things that we didn't talk about, all of it, the cost is, or better saying, investment is only $3,470, or early bird rate $2,470. A huge value that you get in that package. All you need to do is come and bring your goodwill and open mind. And I believe this will be the most important event you have ever attended in your life if you are affected by cancer. And for some, this will be a huge turning point.
Many that have cancer are already financially exhausted and cannot afford that amount. I can see fantastic value, but any ideas for those that are in such a situation?
I know what you're saying. Our price is competitive with other quality retreats on a day-by-day cost basis, and it's still very unique and different retreat. And if you really look at this retreat as an investment in you, your health, your personal peace, how much then it would be worth to you? I know that there are many people that go for retreats overseas. They go to Australia, some other countries. So it shows that there are people that have access to finances, or they become resourceful and find a way to make some financial arrangements because they understand the value that they are getting and importance of what they are getting there. I personally have been given by my insurance company kind of a bonus insurance in the case of cancer diagnosis in amount of $50,000. And when I heard that, I said, I don't need it, I won't get a cancer. They said, well, that's your bonus, so it's part of your package. I know that a friend of mine who's been diagnosed a few years back had a payout of $70,000 once when she was diagnosed. And when she heard for this retreat, she said, I wish that kind of retreat existed at the time when I was diagnosed. I would gladly pay more than twice of that amount because I know what value you provide. Also, you might look at some limited subsidies from certain cancer support organizations. There are some smaller subsidies for treatment purpose. Just inquire in your local cancer organization or some other cancer support organization. Or maybe you might have access to someone else who is willing to provide scholarship or donation for this kind of purpose. When you put your thinking hat on without saying there is no way, it's impossible, but instead you ask how I can make it happen, it's amazing how the mind can find a solution, because there is always a way. Just keep doors open for all good options and solutions, and it will be shown to you.
Do you have any final message for those that are listening?
If you are still listening, it means that you are seriously interested to attend, or you are the one who works or supports people with cancer. And if you are one who has a cancer, I hope you will be the one who will be part of a small group of those who will spend a fabulous, transforming, inspiring, relaxing, and empowering week with us. There are two options from here depending on your personal situation. Option one, if you are affected by cancer and you recognize that you have to be there, you have to attend, then sign up straight away on the form number 1, that is Mana Retreat Secure registration page. And with a deposit of only $500, you will reserve your place in this small exclusive group. And we will call you then to arrange the rest. Second option, you might be a practitioner or someone who might be interested to know when the next retreat might be, or you might be interested in any education in different areas that I'm teaching, or you might have some idea how we might be able to help those that are more financially challenged and still attend the retreat, or you simply would like to keep in touch. In that case, sign up the form 2 and write down what is it that you are interested in. Thanks for listening. I hope you learned a lot, and sign up now. See you at the other side of the form.